So I have a question for you. Yes. How many of you have been skydiving? Show of hands. So who can tell me, out of the few of you who've been skydiving, I know Kevin's a certified instructor, what is the most terrifying part of skydiving? Flying up. Getting ready to jump. Kevin, for you, what is the most terrifying part of skydiving?
Right before you get pushed out.
Right before you get pushed out, right? So the most terrifying part of skydiving is all of it, right? So when you go skydiving, what you do is you show up to this tiny little field in the middle of nowhere where there's a hangar with this small airplane that you're like, hey, that's a smart car. You walk out of your car, you look around, there's a bunch of guys packing parachutes laughing, and you're like, I don't get what's hilarious about this. That's going to save my life. You put on a jumpsuit, and you get strapped to this giant, burly man. And this guy who's now attached to you is whispering in your ear, he's like, it's okay, buddy, it's going to be fun. And you're like, thanks, new friend. You get in this tiny plane, you fly up a few thousand feet, and you're looking down, and you're like, cool, I can hear like the wind, like that's the door creaking, like are we going to go back down there, right? Like we're going down. And then they open the door, and they're like, hey, are you ready? And you're like, no, and it's like, doesn't matter. Burly guy's whispering in your ear, he's like, you're going to have so much fun, man. He opens the door, you lean out, you're looking out over it, and he's like, are you ready? You can go back inside. No, you can't. You're standing on the wing of a plane. And then you jump, and you fall, and you're falling, and you're like, oh, crap, I'm falling. I just jumped out of a plane. And just when you get comfortable, you're like, okay, they pull a ripcord, and you shoot back. And you're like, oh, go, okay, this is a new feeling and emotion. And then he tells you, hey, by the way, don't lock your legs because you can break them when you land. And you're like, why did you tell me this right now? Why didn't you tell me this when we first started to skydive? That would have been good information. So you're approaching the ground, you're looking down, and you're like, are my legs locked? Are they not locked? Am I going to break my legs and shatter them? Who knows? Let's just go with it. You hit the ground, you get done, and it's fantastic. The most terrifying part of skydiving, however, is all of it. And the reason I talk about that is because it's important that what we understand is that we know how to look at risk. The way we have taught you to risk as a generation is wrong. Everything we teach you about risk is wrong. So how many of you know who Steve Jobs is? Right? Exactly. Steve Jobs is the guy who allows some of you to have a cell phone in your pocket that's the reason you're not paying attention right now. How many of you know who Tony Fadell is? No one. Right? So the way we teach risk and the way we talk about it as a generation is we talk about people like Steve Jobs and we tell you this man had a dream and he founded a company and he was innovative and he was new and he was unique. And he started something that was amazing. But we don't talk about people like Tony Fadell. Who Tony Fadell is Tony is the man who designed the software behind the original iPod. He is the reason that Apple can dominate the mobile market. He is the reason that everything Apple has done with mobile technology exists. But you have never heard his name and you will never hear his name because the way we talk about risk is wrong. We tell you it is a one-time thing, that there's a scary part of the process. What we don't tell you is that the entire process is hard. There's two types of risk. There's the big risk and the small risk. The big risk is when you make a decision, you say, I want to try something new. I want to run for this chapter president position. We want to change the way we're doing recruitment. I want to get this internship. I want to apply for this job. I want to change my major. That is the big risk. What happens after you take that risk, however, are the small risks, and those are the things that occur on a daily basis. The things that happen every single day afterwards. No one ever quits because of the big risk. The stepping off point is the easiest thing that you will ever do. The reason that people quit and the reason that people give up is because of the small risks, the things that happen on a daily basis, where you get that chapter position, where you are the president. So now every single one of your members is watching you every single day, waiting for you to make a mistake. The big risk is running for the internship, trying to get that job. The small risk is when you get that internship and you realize maybe I'm not as qualified as I thought, and maybe I don't know how to impress the people around me. The big risk is asking them on a date. The small risk is actually going on that date and realizing, oh crap, I don't know how to make myself sound interesting. But no one ever quits because of a big risk. Everyone quits because of the small risk, because those are the things that get to you. Those are the things that wear you down day in and day out. So it's important that before you take any risk, before you make any decision like that, you know what these small risks are going to be so you can endure, and you can survive, and you can thrive. At the beginning of this program, I told you you don't have a choice. Second you join an organization bigger than yourself, you lost a choice. You don't choose whether or not you are going to leave behind a legacy. What you get to choose is the type of legacy you are going to leave behind. And personally, I cannot wait to see what you create. Thank you.